Come on, really? Every time when I'm about to start a vlog, it always rains on me. All that's left to do is the rack and pinion. I have yet assembled them together, but I did rebuild the rack. And I know in the previous video I said I was gonna film a video rebuilding the rack, but I've decided there's a bunch of good videos, good tutorials on how to rebuild the rack. So yeah, I just did it off camera. This is actually not the original rack and pinion that came out of this S13. This is from my buddy Kaulana. So while I was rebuilding the rack, this end cap here, you have to drill out the punch mark, and then in order to take this out. So I did that and got the nut off, and it was all stripped. So I couldn't put it back on after rebuilding it, but luckily Kaulana was parting out his coupe, so I got this from him. Yeah, shout out to Kaulana. On the right we have, move this out of the way, we have the P2M inner tie rod and the outer, adjustable outer right here. This is actually a combo kit that I bought from them. So it comes with the inner, outer, and this right here. So I also bought some new tie rod boots and some new clamps. So these are the rack and pinion bushings, and these are the old, this is the Chase Bay stainless steel flying forearm that goes right here. We need to try to at least center the rack before we start putting on the tie rods. So this is how I would center the rack. I would turn the rack all the way to the right or all the way to the left. So right now I have it all the way to the left. So once you get that all the way to the left, you want to mark. Let's put a mark anywhere. Let's do this side. And the housing, and then this part right here. So it's kind of hard to do this with one hand. There, right there. I marked the shaft and the housing. Alright, now start turning the opposite way, which is to the left for me. And while you turn, just count the revolution. So that's gonna be 1 for me, 2 revolution, 3, and it's about 3.5. So it stopped right there. So now you want to mark and line it up with the marking on the shaft to the housing. Now that's your second mark. Alright, so once you made your second mark and you got your revolutions, you want to divide that by 2. So in this case, 3.5 for me divided by 2 is going to be around 175. So what I'm gonna do is rotate this about 1.5, 175 revolution. So that's 1, and then 75 is probably gonna be like right here. You can get the tape measure and just measure the shaft right here. So in this case, it's about 2.5 for me. And let's try this side. This side is gonna be, yep, 2.5. So yeah, that's it. That's how you center your rack. Now you're ready to install the hard lines. thank God it has finally stopped raining. It's been raining for like 2 hours and I didn't know what to do, but I did got a few things done, and unfortunately it's gonna be over the voiceover because the rain was just too loud for me to talk. And yeah, let me show you what I've got done so far. So we did assemble the hard lines for the rack and pinion. We got the inners and outer assembled. Next is gonna be installing the bushings, and can't forget about these clamp. These goes around the boot here. Don't forget about these two spacer. Very important. It just goes right here, just like that, and then just screw on the inners, and it should be good to go. I'm gonna leave the boot on loosely for now until I get the rack onto the car. Then we can tighten down this inners. Alright, so these are energy suspension rack and pinion bushing. This comes with 3 pieces, but you're only gonna need 2. So the first one is gonna be according to the instruction. The S13 is gonna be used with part number 10034, which is this one right here, 10034. This one also fits Z32 and S14 too, but so this is going to be one of the parts, and now you have 2 parts left. So on the second part that you need to pair off, part number is 10035, which is this thin bushing right here. On my left, this is a S14 rack bushing. As you can see the size difference, the S14 is much more thicker than the S13. This one feels a bit too flimsy. You can see, look, I can just bend it so easily. It's very flimsy, it's very thin. Opposing to S14, look, it's much beefier and it just more firmer than the S13. So I'm gonna be using the S14 bushing because I feel like this will hold the rack much more. This will give you extra clamping force opposing to this one. It's just way too flimsy. Look at that. So yeah, we're gonna be pairing off the 10034 and 10044. But yeah, you don't need this one anymore. You can just save it for a spare or throw it in the river, run it over with a car, whatever you want to do. Yeah, so these two is gonna go on, and then yeah, I guess that should be the last thing that we need to do on this rack. The aftermath of this heavy rain, shop is slightly flooded, still staying dry. That's all that matters. But yeah, we're gonna throw the rack onto the car finally. Alright guys, so the rack is pretty much all secured, everything all tightened and bolted down. This is good here, that's good. All the lines are all tightened. The boot is on. The inner is also tightened down. I think the last thing that we have to do is this outer tie rod. Yep, almost done. Almost there, almost there. Alright guys, so it's the last piece of the puzzle. These are the hardwares for the outer tie rod. You can see the comes with 2 spacers. One is a thicker one, and this is about 10 millimeter. It's a 10 millimeter spacer, and then we have the 5 millimeter spacer. So what these spacers are for, they're gonna be determining your row center. And if you don't know what row center is, Google has all of your answers, so search them up. But I'm gonna put a photo. I'm gonna keep it around 10 millimeter of roll center because my car is a little bit lower. So this is gonna be the top, okay, and this is gonna be the bottom. So the orientation would be 10 mil first, and then you would put it on the outer tie rod, and then followed by the 5 mil. Alright guys, so we have a problem with the new inner and outer tie rods. So the problem is one side is maxed out, toe in, and the other side is maxed out about, it's almost zero toe. And I've already centered the rack, but the toe is still off, so it's not the rack. And I did install the rack spacer for both sides. I think there's about 6 to 7 millimeter, so that kind of pushes the tie rod out a little bit too. But I can't make any more adjustments to the toe. So you can see on the driver's side, this is the issue. I have to bring the toe in order for these to for the adjustment screw to screw on. Once one side zero out the toe, let's try to get this straight as possible, and take a look at this. You can see just how much more thread once I zero it out. So I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna trim off about 1.5, and hopefully I have more room for adjustability. I'll do the same on this side, because this side is also maxed out. So yeah, I'm gonna trim off a little bit of the thread, and then hopefully that fixes it. I noticed that I keep saying we in all of my videos. I don't know why. I mean, it's just me here and no one else. Alright guys, so I took about 1/2 inch off, and yeah, and the nut still threads on just fine. Alright, it looks a lot better, and I still have more room for adjustability. Just what I wanted. Same for the passenger side. Also trimmed off here. And I took about a whole inch. Where'd it go? I took off about a whole inch, and I still have quite a few of thread engagements, so that's that. Boots are back on both sides. Make sure to tighten down this jam nut. Double check, triple check. Make sure everything's all tightened down. You don't want the rack to loosen up on you while you're on the road. It can get ugly. Alright, it's time to fill up the power steering fluid.
Alright, now you want to start the car and just turn the steering all the way to the left and all the way to the right to bleed the fluids. This is the fluid I'll be using. It is not a power steering fluid. It is actually a ATF fluid, fully synthetic. The reason why I'm going with ATF is because I feel power steering fluid is too thin and is prone to leaks. So ATF is a bit thicker. That's why I'm going this route. You can get any ATF fluid that is Dexron 2 and Dexron 3. You can see right here. So you can find it in Walmart, O'Reilly, or AutoZone. I mean, they're not that expensive. So you need about like 1.8 quarts, but I bought 2 of these, so hopefully that should be enough. Make sure to check for any visible leaks. In this case, we don't have a leak, which is good. And once you turn the steering from lock to lock, you're gonna come back out and top off the fluid and continue until there's no whine in your power steering, or at least until there's no bubble. We have another problem. As I was just trying to bleed the power steering, and I noticed the fluid isn't going down, and the power steering was still making a loud whining noise. So I did a visual inspection, and this is what I found. The feed hose, you can see there's a kink right there, and as I try to bleed the system, the hose collapsed. That's why the fluid wasn't going down, and the power steering pump was whining so loud. But yeah, the whole hose collapsed as I was bleeding the system, like completely flattened out. So yeah, that's gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to get a new hose. Alright guys, got the hose from O'Reilly. I went to like 2 or 3 different O'Reillys. They didn't have it in stock, and this was the last one. So guess I'm lucky. Here's the part number if you guys ever need in the future. This is the power steering feed line from reservoir to pump. Alright, how am I gonna do this without spilling or wasting so much fluid? I just pretty much topped off like a whole quart. Damn, I forgot to buy another quart of ATF fluids. Alright, so I didn't buy an extra quart of ATF fluid, so I'm going to try to save as much fluid as possible. So what I'm going to do is disconnect from the pump side and quickly just stick it back in the reservoir, so that way the fluid doesn't go to waste. But whatever's coming out of the pump, I mean, it shouldn't be much, but it's going to be a quick disconnect, and then I'll put the new one in. I can't do this with one hand, so I'm gonna need the 2 hands. Alright guys, so I managed to save some of the fluid, and I got the new hose on right here. So all of the remainder of the fluids are still in here. So what I'm gonna be doing is dumping it back in here, and then I can install the other end of the hose on the reservoir there. Got all the fluids. Okay, I just hope. Let's put it right down here just in case it's in case there's a spill, which I don't think there should be any. Yep, so we're all good. go. Now all that's left to do is tighten the clamp. There. Job done. This is the old hose, and you can see it's collapsed right here, and it's so soft and flimsy. Doesn't even look like it's made for power steering or high pressure, but this is going in the trash. All right, got the new hose installed. As you can see, right there. Yeet yeet. But first, I'm gonna put everything back on: the blow off valve and the boot. Yeah, boy. Got power steering. Oh my gosh, man. Feels so good to have power steering. That's gonna wrap up today's video. Appreciate you guys for tuning in today. Stay tuned for the next one. Laters.